My name's Sharon Gilfoyle and I'm here to talk about the importance of personal relationships in recovery. And I'm going to use my experience as being a peer employment project lead for CPFT, that's Cambridge and Peterborough Foundation Trust, and also as a peer reference trainer for ImROC. I'm going to be sharing my experience from a number of perspectives. So from my own lived experience of having mental health issues, from working in mental health for over 23 years, my role as a social worker and my role as a peer employment project lead. Just to start with, I thought it'd be helpful just to look at who can provide support in terms of our recovery. Well, that can be our family, our loved ones, our friends, our peers, so people who we consider to be peers. Perhaps work colleagues if we work, mental health teams or personnel, so that can be our social workers, our CPNs, our nurses, etc. And also support from people related to our hobbies and interests, so whether you have spiritual, recreational, leisure pursuits and interests, whether you're in education or work, or whether you receive things like complementary therapies, which again you can get support from a person. I'm just going to look at personal support from my own perspective. Here's an example of my own support network. There's me in the middle, and in terms of my own support network, my parents were very supportive. My husband is a great support and a real encourager, believer that things can get better. My son, although my son was very tiny when I was having my challenges, he's a good support to me now. My work colleagues were very important to me. Although I didn't tell some of my work colleagues about my challenges, it was really important to be able to work and go to employment, and I had a very busy work life really. Complementary therapies and spiritual friends were very important to me. I enjoyed going for complementary therapies. I'm a complementary therapist myself, and I would read a lot around spirituality, do lots of meditation, so that was a great source of support. Information for me was again very important. I've done a lot of studying over the years, initially as a social worker and practice teacher, and then currently doing my masters now, and I think it's really important to gain knowledge around mental health, to understand why I was experiencing things that I was, and to continually learn and grow. What was important for me? Well, primarily my husband. He believed in me, he held the hope when things were quite dire for me at times. He was a real encourager. In fact, it was him who suggested that I could become a social worker. I'd put it off for years and years, and he said, look, come on, you can do this, and encouraged me to go and apply and go for the interview. I had a really good friend who was a peer, so she told me that she'd experienced mental health challenges, and she was a senior worker within the organisation. She really understood and encouraged me to accept some professional help. First and foremost, I had to go and seek some professional help, but then accept it when it was offered to me, and that was a really hard thing to do. And over time, the support of mental health services became really important, so I would receive services for a number of years, and that became a real valued support network for me. Out of all my extensive friendships, and I had loads of friends, only 2 were aware of my challenges and subsequently offered support emotionally and practically. And again, that was down to me not being able to tell people around my challenges, and I didn't want to share this at that point. As I've previously mentioned, spirituality and meditation, spiritual groups, reading around spirituality, going to meditation classes, etc. was very helpful on my journey, and complementary therapies, giving and receiving complementary therapies. Virtual support, I'll talk about that in a little while, but actually having support virtually from text messages, from cards and poetry that people had given me was helpful. And gaining knowledge, so to continually study, grow and develop, and again seeking information about my challenges to research, self-help, etc. The importance of people who really know you. Well, it's really important to have friends and family who really understand where you're coming from. They can just be with you, so they can be present and just be in the moment with you. They don't have to talk, they don't have to do things, they can just be sitting there quietly, but actually that can be often very important. They know what you need without probing, without asking lots of questions, without fishing for things. They just instinctively know what you need. You can call them and they'll be straight there, even if you don't ask them to. So if you're feeling really quite bad one day, to give someone a call, and actually you don't have to say come round. They just turn up on your door, and that's a true friend. And they stay connected even when you can't. So texts, positive affirmations, especially when you are struggling to communicate. What didn't work for me? Well, at the time I was having my challenges, I didn't want to share my lived experience with others. I wasn't ready at that point. I felt unable to share my challenges with my manager or my work colleagues. The stigma was too great and I was worried about losing my job. I think it's really interesting to think that for my 23 years of working have been in mental health. So actually, you know, the fact that I couldn't share this with my own colleagues, I think is very interesting. Things are very different now, but at that time I was unable to share my challenges due to the stigma that I was worried about. And of course, I'm a social worker. Social workers don't have mental health challenges, or so I believed. Well, actually, I knew that you could, but I think the fact of coming out and talking about my own challenges was just too great and too worrying. I didn't want to share with my family, so I was worried it was too much of a burden for them, so I didn't feel able to put any more weight on their shoulders. And often I was worried that there were too many people around me, so I didn't like things to be really busy. I would like the quiet and to stay at home and get some support from myself really at home. Quality versus quantity. Like me, you can have hundreds of friendships and social relationships, but are they quality relationships? Can you call on them all for help? Quality is far more important than the quantity of friendships that you have. Essentially, one good support is worth more than hundreds of names on a Facebook page. Now I want to look at personal support from a peer perspective. I've been very lucky to project manage the peer developments in CPFT. And when I was interviewing potential peer workers, they told me a few things about personal support. So I just wanted to highlight those here. It was really interesting when potential peer workers were telling me about their story, about their journey. There was always one person that stood out in regards to their recovery. And they said that this person was generous with their time. They would give. They wouldn't be worried about spending time with that person. They held the hope when they were unable to, so they believed in them, they encouraged them, they were positive. They treated them as a person, not a diagnosis or a case, a person on my caseload. They didn't necessarily focus around their diagnosis, but they were just there to support that person. This person was always compassionate, kind and caring, so they oozed compassion and it was just lovely to be with them. Peers said that they looked at me, not through me. They really gave me good eye contact. They really spoke to me. They really valued me. And they didn't just look through me, is what they were saying. They listened to me without judgment. So they didn't say, you shouldn't have done that. You know, why did you do that? They were just not judging me. They gave me positive affirmations and encouragement. So they would say, you know, you're really valued. You can do this. Well done. And often just something simple like remembering my name, in particular when peers were on a ward, they said that this was really important to them. When we look at the peer worker training, I was fortunate to go on the peer worker training back in May 2010, and I did the training there for a month as a student. And every day on the peer worker training, the peer educators would send all students a positive affirmation text. And this was just quite a shock the first day we received it, and it was just so beautiful. One student said, "This was the first time in my life that I felt truly supported. The training was the most positive experience of my life. I kept all the texts the trainers sent to me. Once it ended, I missed them so much I replicated this with my friends. Now my friends and I send each other daily texts, and I still send texts to my children. I still have all the texts that were sent to me when I did the training. Absolutely beautiful. And it could be just something positive about how beautiful the weather was and what a lovely day it was, what you can expect on a great day, or something positive about us as students, how we're really valued and how we're really going to help someone on their recovery journey." This is just an example of a positive affirmation that you could send or have as an email or a text. And another one, and this was quite nice in terms of true friends will break down the walls. Sometimes people put up walls not to keep others out, but to see who cares enough to break them down. I just wanted to focus now on something that I'm just calling virtual support, and the importance of this both to myself when I was having my struggles, but also to peer workers, to peers that I see on a daily basis. The importance of text messages, cards, poetry, I'm calling that positive affirmations really. So the importance, as I've just talked about, of getting that positive text message in the morning, a card through the door, a poem, a piece of artwork, is really, really encouraging when you're not feeling so good, especially if you're not in a position where you can communicate easily. Just to send a text to a friend or someone that you know is struggling, just to say, I'm thinking about you, I hope you're okay, is really valuable to get. There's a real increase in the use of online support, so virtual support groups, user forums, offering virtual peer support, advice and information. And you can have a support group, a virtual support group for almost anything now if you look online. And social media is becoming really popular in terms of things like Facebook, YouTube. So yes, I have a Facebook page, I speak to lots of friends on there, and I can do that behind a computer. So for me, that's helpful if I'm not doing too well, if my anxiety is really high, I can hide behind my Facebook. And also YouTube is really popular for people now in terms of mental health. You can get the most incredible videos, stories, messages on there, and again, hear different perspectives about people's recovery. When talking to peers, so people who are receiving services, they said to me really, a good support network is absolutely essential. It's really important, as I showed you my support network earlier on, it's really important to have a good support network. And when we were interviewing peer workers for peer employment training, we talked about the support they were getting. Who's your support network? Where do you get your support from? Who are your personal friends and relationships? Can you rely on them when you're coming to the course? Because you'll need some support. To get good support outside of work, if people work, and don't take work home with you. So you need to keep a good work-home life balance. If you do work, peers were saying it's really important to ask your manager for help. You can get referred to occupational health. There's sometimes counselling at work that you can access. So do be brave and open up. Ask your friends and ask your managers for help. Learn to open up. And often it's not as bad as you expect when you ask for help. Again, from my own personal experience, I waited far too long to seek some professional help because I was worried about what people would think. Do share your worries with your loved ones. They will want to help you. They really do want to provide you support and the love and care that you would expect from a family member. It's helpful to be with others who really understand. In terms of other peers, you don't have to say anything. They often just know. I thought it'd also be helpful to talk about what doesn't help in personal relationships. Well, from both my perspective and peers that I've worked with, they've said that people who are too needy is a real challenge. So often people will take but they don't give, and this can really zap your energy, take what little that you may have, and so it's often worthwhile staying away from people who are too needy themselves. People who tell you what to do and also what not to do. So you need to go to this group, or you don't need to be at work at the moment. Often it's about building resilience yourself and believing that actually you are the best person to make decisions about your life. People who ask too many questions about your mental health. What medication are you taking? Have you tried this? What about this? Again, you are the best expert in terms of your journey. What isn't helpful is waiting too long to get support from mental health services. From my perspective, that was my fault. I didn't access them early enough. But actually many people say when they do feel brave enough to access mental health services, it can take weeks, days, months, or even longer to get support that they need. Losing control, so that lack of autonomy in relationships, to feel that you're actually out of control and that you can't make decisions for yourself, is very scary. Okay, now I'm just going to think about some helpful tips that may be useful. Helpful tips for peers, for people receiving services. It may be really useful to make a date with your partner, even if you're both really busy. Watch a film, cook together, go for a walk or a cycle ride. So really make time for each other, especially when your children are in bed, to make time to talk, to just be around each other. To visit or phone your friends, send an email or write a letter. Make new friends, so join a group, find a new hobby, establishing new contacts with people who have similar lifestyles can help you feel that someone really understands your challenges, so that peer support. Explain your feelings to your family and friends. As we've said earlier, they really do want to help, most of the time. It is a fact that developing and nurturing your personal relationships can help you lower your stress levels. Helpful tips for those providing support. Offer to help with practical things, cook a meal, drop off some shopping, washing, ironing, babysit, etc. Call in on your friends to take them out, even if it's just for a car ride or a walk. Often don't wait to be invited. Sometimes people are struggling to make the call to you. So if you know your friend well enough, you can just call and, say I've just popped in, or do you want to do something together, etc. Send a positive text. So think about the virtual support you can provide. If your friends, family, loved ones don't want to engage in communication or don't want to see you, just send a positive text, even if they don't respond, or just say, I'm thinking of you. Often now, as peer employment project lead, we have people who go off sick, and that may be a peer, it may be another member of staff, and often now I will think about sending a positive text. So I'm just thinking of you, I hope things are okay, you're a really positive person, etc. And this is really valued by staff members. Give them a hug, especially for your loved ones. Tell them how much you care for them, and listen to them, but listen without judgment. And obviously give good eye contact, so be with them in the moment. Helpful tips for peers. People can join a support group in person, or, as we've already talked about, online, so it can be virtual support. It's really important to give ourselves a pat on the back, so to give ourselves credit for things that we've done well, or for achieving a positive day at work, or, I got out today and it's something that I haven't done for a while. Important to keep busy. It really does occupy the mind. Write a wellness plan and then share it with your family and friends, or write it together, which would be brilliant. Wellness plans are really helpful, and there's a variety of plans out there, whole life plans, wrap plans, recovery stars that you can use. Or you can do something very creative. You can do something in terms of a collage or artwork or poetry. But it's really important, if you feel able, to share it with your family, because this can be where you get your personal support from. So when I'm feeling really struggling in a particular area, this is what I want you to do as my family or my loved one or my friend. Please, can you do this as per my wellness plan? Ensure you let your family and friends know what is helpful and what isn't. So it's important to stay in control. It is your recovery. Mental health services can be a support, in particular around shared decision making in terms of medication, care and support, so that you are in control of your journey. Try to find inner peace in whatever form is right for you, so spirituality, religion, exercise, art, creativity, etc. For me, my inner peace was around spirituality, meditation, complementary therapies, but obviously that's going to be different for everybody. What not to do. Don't say pull yourself together, or I know how you are feeling, as you probably don't. You may have experienced something similar, but everybody's journey is very different. Don't give up on someone. Always hold the hope for them. Recovery is possible for all. Don't get cross when you feel your loved one is not making a quick enough recovery. What I want to end on are a couple of CPFT video clips that I think would be really good to highlight the nature of personal support. So these people who are on the video are either peer workers, people receiving services, governors, staff members, etc., talking about their experience and their recovery journey. First of all is just an overview, so some video clips in general, and be interesting to pull out the elements of personal support that people talk about. And then I'm going to end with Lee's story. And again, I've picked this one because it talks about the nature of personal support that was really helpful in terms of her own journey.
The most helpful thing in my recovery is very much about my own resilience, my own courage. I want to shout about the strengths that I've discovered about myself. It's not about, continually aspiring to be something. It's about loving who I am right now. And I'd never thought about that before.
So my marriage ended and I lost my house. And basically that's how I came to realise that I probably was recovering quite well, because I dealt with it all. What happened to me fundamentally was I went from being a glass half empty person to a glass half full. It was a fundamental change within me that has made me see things like so much clearer.
We all need love, and so many of us don't always feel that love. Some of it is because of where we at the time with our challenges, and other times we really sometimes feel so rejected and unwanted. Going on the peer support training course helped me realise that I wasn't alone in this, that there were so many other people that had gone through similar things.
All in all, the medical interventions didn't work, but something did work, and CPFT did help me a great deal, because what worked was they offered me a job.
It's not a stigma anymore to have mental health challenges. It's maybe more common than certainly I ever felt, and it's wonderful to be able to share, and if I can help somebody else just to have that hope and that determination to turn things around. If I can do it, then I'm sure anybody can.
I don't think I could have survived without medication or without the support that was put into place. But also my friendships that I had developed outside of services were what carried me through the day to day, being able to call on a friend and get support from them.
And here I am today knowing that I'm proud of myself, which I wouldn't thought you'd normally say about yourself, but I am proud of myself because I've achieved what I wanted to achieve, and my family's proud of me, and my boys and my husband. And putting a smile on their face, is good. And I'm working. There was days when I thought I'd never be able to work or get out of the house.
For me, things such as rugby, I admit every time I play a game or so, or getting prepared for a game, that I'm nervous. I'll be honest about my anxieties. And I get such wonderful feedback from the guys, not treat me as a special case or anything like that, nothing like that at all. They turn and say, yeah, we feel it too. And just recently, I was given a shield for the most improved player, and it's the first time I've ever been in a group sport where I've actually come up and actually said, I've actually completed it. I've actually got the year out.
I really owe everything about my recovery to my wife, Karen. And it's one of these strange things in life that I should fall in love, and she should fall in love with me when I was really at my worst. So I just want people to take this message, maybe, that you should never give up, that you will recover. You've just got to stick at it. And sometimes the nicest things happen at the most unexpected of times.
My hope for people that are having challenges themselves, I really would like them to see that it is possible to recover and to become yourself again. Recovery is remembering who you are, finding the strength, and then becoming all that you can be. And that's what I am now. Like I say, I'm even stronger now. I'm happier, I'm more content, I'm at peace with myself. And I know that will always be with me now. And if I have challenges in the future, I know I'll spot them, I'll deal with them, and they will never ever get me again, ever.
teenage years, I've experienced psychiatric challenges in varying degrees. 7 years ago, shortly after the birth of my daughter, my life became very dark, hopeless and unbearable. The daily task of just being seemed unthinkable. I thought I was dying. The future seemed unobtainable. I just wanted it all to end. Fortunately, I was referred to my local community health team and a care plan was put into place. Medication became my new, scary, at times frustrating, but wonderful coping tool. Slowly, I saw the tiniest glimmer of hope, and with the support of my husband, my daughter, friends, family, and the many services available, for example, a psychiatric nurse, psychiatrists, social workers and counsellors, I began experiencing some relief of my symptoms. I received support from friendship services too, like the Postnatal Depression Organisation, and from a wonderful Home Start volunteer. These volunteers were invaluable to my recovery. I found it easier to share my experiences with others who also had lived experiences of challenges. Listening to their coping techniques was extraordinary. I knew even then that if I could share my story of how I was coping and slowly recovering, I too could be a shining example. My journey to recovery has been rich and a varied one. Sometimes I trip and I stumble along its path, but I get up, dust down and I walk on. I pull on inner strength and my resources and I stay focused on hope that I will continue to recover. The course to be a peer worker has opened my mind and heart to further personal discovery. I have had opportunity to share and reflect on my journey and realise my own strengths and believe in myself that I am the evidence of recovery. Well, I've realised I'm not dying, I'm living. I'm a hero of my own story. Look at me, I'm a recovery model.
I hope that's been helpful and you valued information from a personal and peer manager point of view. Thank you for listening.